Welcome to Camp Chaos, where we celebrate the wild ride of modern womanhood.
Join us as we dish on motherhood, life's ups and downs, and all things pop culture that we know you want to talk about.
With special guests and expert insights, we're here to empower you through the chaos of everyday life.
Consider this your ultimate escape from the hustle and bustle. And as always, parental guidance suggested.
Camp is now in session. Welcome back to Camp Chaos. Today we are talking about how to choose the perfect school for your child.
Woo!
And you better do it when you're pregnant because it's really hard to get into these schools.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. No joke though, when Zane was in the NICU, a nurse said to me when I was like doing skin to skin, he was like 3 days old. She said, "What preschool are you looking at?" And I was like, "Oh, very funny. Like I hadn't even taken him home." She's like, "No, honey, I'm not joking. You better get like started on the preschool search in Newport Beach." I'm like, and she was right. Thank God I did start it at that time. It's hard out here.
I did not. One of the things, I always tell my mom, like these perks and non-perks of being the oldest child in the family, like you have to figure everything out first. And
You were the test.
I did not know that the preschool thing around here was as insane as it was. Like I had Miller and a mommy and me, and I was like, yeah, we're just going to do preschool here, which it is a great preschool. Until I was in that mommy and me class, and it was the day, I didn't realize, but the day everybody got accepted into their preschools. And it was literally like college admissions day in high school where they were like, "Where'd you get in? Where'd you get?" And I'm like,
you're like, "Honey,
what the hell
here.
are these people talking about?" And everyone's saying like, "Oh, this preschool. Oh, this preschool." And I was like, called my mom after. I'm like, "So I missed the boat."
Yeah. Were you crying?
But this is a thing apparently, like in this city.
Okay.
It's very…
Pause though too, because these children are 3 while we're having this conversation. Like right? Miller started at 3 or even 2?
3. He started at 3.
Okay, 3. Most European countries don't send their kids to school till they're like 6, 7, even 8. So like the preschool thing is a little bit of a sham. Like I don't necessarily…
A little.
Okay. I'm glad we could just get out there. Like
it's insane.
It is not 100% necessary. A lot of it is more of like a daycare. Some of them are better than others. Don't get me wrong. Like we have a few in our area that I think are absolutely incredible. But a lot of the other ones are like not necessary for you to be sending your kid.
Well, and I would also like
as long as you're doing developmental things for your child at home and having playdates and other exposure and other activities. Well, so it does come with that.
Yeah. And I would like to say, so people like don't come for us and think we're just like these like, stuck up like dumb people. It's like preschool is baby. Like these kids are not learning anything drastic that's going to change their life or change their future for what grade school that they're going to go into.
And at the end of the day, it's not stuff that you can't teach at home. So like the trade-off is like, are you going to sit and teach colors, numbers, shapes? Like, are you going to teach that stuff at home if you want that academic stuff to be learned at 3? Or are you doing this more for like the social, the play, like emotional intelligence, which I also think is important. So just talking out of both sides of our mouth, I do think it's important, but it's not like the end of the world if you don't send your kid to preschool and you are going to be doing this on your own.
1000%. I think it's totally okay. But we are just going to talk about our preschool experience, finding schools, and then we'll get into finding the grade schools.
Yeah.
Grade schools? Is that what they're called?
Whatever that's called that we need to find.
Whatever.
Yeah. Okay. I do think that the most important thing when thinking about preschool, especially at the age of 3 when they're like testing the boundaries and their personalities are coming out, is to know your child. Like what is best for Zane will probably not be best for Miller because they're so different. So much like, I mean, all of our other friends, like they all have their own personalities. Like Zane absolutely needed somewhere that was going to like be fostering more play-based and more imagination and getting him outside of his shell. He didn't need so much structure and so much discipline. Like for him, his personality just did not need that. So I think knowing your child is extremely important while you're trying to get into the very few preschools that will accept you because there's a 200-person waiting list.
Right. No, exactly. And I think the other thing that's important for you as a parent when you're looking at preschools, if you're going to look into preschools, like if you just want to go to the local preschool, do that. If you just need some help, I think that's great. But if the way that I was looking at preschool is I was trying to figure out the best way to prepare Miller for grade school,
Yeah.
which is the next step. Because I feel like with the boys, we could have gotten away with no preschool because we were in so many classes, you guys, with our kids that like
we were the preschool.
We were the preschool.
Yeah.
We didn't need to put them in preschool. The reason why I was doing it is because I wanted him to get used to the structure of you wake up in the morning, you go to school, you eat breakfast, you go to school away from mommy and daddy, and then you come home. Like more so that was important to me because he was just with me all day, every day.
Absolutely.
So when it came for us to pick a preschool, after I found out that it was such a thing, I looked at schools that were feeders into the grade school that I knew I wanted him to get into. Because I've known the grade school that I wanted him to go to since the beginning, but I didn't know so much about the preschool. Yeah. So I just found a school that was faith-based, preparing him for what to expect at the next level.
Yeah. The other thing I will say, at least this was important for me, and like if it's not for you, I was not like, I know Miller goes 5 days a week, and for me, I was like, I'm not ready to let go of him that much. Mm-hmm. Like I rather him go. He started at 2 days a week, and it was like 2 half days. Now he's at 3 days a week, but I'm like, you know, he has the rest of his life to be in school. I wanted him home, so finding somewhere that would take him like a minimal amount of days was really important to me. And then, yeah, like you're saying, okay, are you going to go Montessori? Are you going to go Waldorf? Are you going to go play-based? There's the Italian one. Like there's all these different mindsets, and being able to research like what all those all mean. And does it align with what you do at home? Because like they can't go to school and have like one set of responsibilities and way of learning and playing and then come home and it's like completely the other way.
Well, and I think when you're talking about like Miller going to school more days than Zane, I think that goes to like your first point of like you have to know your kid. And I knew that Miller was going to have a really tough time being away from me because he's never been away from me. And I thought it would be really confusing for him to, you know, like most people start like Kyndra, like 2 days a week is normal or 3 days a week because you're just like trying to dip their toe into school. But I felt like Miller was not going to understand that like it was a Monday, Wednesday, and a Friday, or like a Tuesday, Thursday, and why he had days that he didn't go to school. And when I was talking to his director at the preschool, she was kind of encouraging the same thing when I told her my concerns of like 5 days, he's only there 3 hours a day, but that way he understands that there's like the weekdays and then there's the weekend that you don't go to school.
That is actually a huge benefit because Zane's like, what day is it? Am I going to school today? I'm like, oh gosh, poor kid.
Yeah.
And then here we are on spring break. Why is spring broken? I'm like, mommy doesn't know either.
We don't know.
We don't understand. But so I do think that the routine and having that schedule is, especially for his personality, like that is a good thing.
Yeah.
I also think like when you are thinking of preschools, like it's okay, just like how I would say, like, interview your pediatrician, like go and tour these preschools, like go walk the campuses, ask the people that have had kids before you, but like actually schedule the tours and know what to ask the teachers. I do feel like sometimes first time moms, like they go in and they're like, oh, they're just happy to be here. And like, oh, well, will you take my kid? But you need to come prepared with it, like at least, I don't know, 7 to 10 questions of like, how do you handle conflict? Like, what is the communication with me? Like, what is, do they need to be fully potty trained? Like, just, you need to ask questions about like what is going on here at this facility when you're away from your child. And knowing the owner of the preschool, I would say, is a huge benefit. Like knowing like who is backing this whole thing, whose ideologies are behind this, like not just like your teachers who's spending time, but like what is the whole philosophy of the school?
Yeah, I think that was like one of the biggest questions I asked Miller's teacher when we were on the tour is how do you handle conflict and challenges? Because these kids are so young. Yeah. And like, you know, even when our kids are together, it's like share, take turns. But like, how do you handle that in that situation that's beneficial for them? That's a way that they will learn structure, that they will learn how to play with other kids and all of those things. So I think, coming in with questions, I think understanding what they're going to learn and if and how much they are going to learn. Yeah. Like, is this going to be more of learning just how to be social? Like, are you just going to learn how to play with other kids? Are they going to be learning a new language? Are they learning about geography? Like or
what is the like what
am I paying for? What is all this money
what
going
is
to?
The curriculum? What is my kid going to come out of here doing? Okay, also this sounds like a silly thing, but it just came to mind, like 2 things actually. So one is what the teacher turnover is, because we lost a teacher. That sounds so like emotional, but one of Zane's teacher left, and it was like a very big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Like he still talks about it, and it's been probably a year, and he wants to know where she is, why she left. Like it's a very big deal for them to leave. So you want to know that they don't have just like a rotating door of teachers coming and going. You want to know what the ratio is, like teacher to child ratio, like how many, that one teacher is going to be responsible for how many kids?
Right.
Like 3, 4, ideally.
Are there aides in the room?
Is it, yeah, like who is coming in this room? The other thing is like communication with the teachers and with the owner if you have a small preschool. But for example, Zane, and I won't say the kid's name in case his mom listens to the podcast, but Zane always would tell me that somebody hit him at school. And like, you remember this. And like the first time it was like, okay, well, what did Miss, so-and-so, I won't say the teachers, what did they do? Did you tell them? It's like asking the right questions. But like for me as a mom, I'm like, listen, little kid.
Yeah.
Like, did you
separate up?
Yeah. And then I, obviously go to the school and say, Zane told me this happened. And, their whole thing was like, okay, this other kid is not hitting, but the way that he plays is so much more intense than the way Zane plays. Like Zane is more of like Zane is not a rough house. He is not pushing. This other kid is like all boy, crazy energy. I don't know what he's eating in the morning, but he is like doing takedowns. Like he is like very intense. So we told Zane like understanding how to say I need space and I don't want to play that way. And like the teachers were aware, but then it continued. So then it came to the point where Gus is like, if he hits you, hit him back. You remember that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh no, we don't say hit back. And my nanny, who's like the most like angel religious woman, she goes, no, Kyndra, that's the right thing. If this continues, he has to defend himself, which that was a whole other like eye-opening. I remember I said to you like, oh my God, my husband said that. You're like, I think we would have said the same.
Yeah.
I don't know what the right answer is. However, like finding a school that for weeks I kept talking about it with them and they weren't like, okay, lady, like it's not happening. You're crazy. Like I have to believe what my son is saying to me. So like finding a school that will help you troubleshoot, if you will, like these situations because they're going to come up. What if you could slow down aging, boost energy, sharpen your mind at the cellular level? Meet NAD. NAD injections help recharge the body from a cellular level, cutting to the root of the energy problems. NAD is a vital coenzyme found in every living cell. Without NAD, life would literally cease to exist.
Our NAD levels also deplete over time as we age, leading to low energy, fatigue, brain fog, and cellular dysfunction, a critical hallmark of aging. So, how do we supplement our NAD levels? The most effective method of restoring depleted NAD levels is NAD injections, but if needles aren't your thing, NAD patches and nasal spray are also available as viable alternatives for supplementing NAD.
So if you're thinking about trying NAD, you might be wondering, what is the best place to turn to? How do you know you're getting a quality treatment with the right medical guidance? That's where Ageless RX comes in.
When getting started with Ageless RX, you'll be connected with US licensed expert prescriber who makes your health their #1 priority. Unlike other telehealth platforms, Ageless RX isn't about filling prescriptions. It's about helping you optimize your health span with expert-driven care. From the moment you start, you'll be connected with a US licensed prescriber who specializes in longevity. They'll guide you through the process, ensure NAD is right for you, and here's the big difference. They actually stick with you throughout the prescription.
You'll have free on-demand access to medical professionals whenever you need support. So no extra fees, hoops to jump through. And because quality matters, all prescriptions are sourced from FDA-registered pharmacies who regularly test your treatment for quality and purity. And the best part, there's no membership fees or consultation fees. You only pay for the cost of your prescription. That is it.
If you're looking for trusted, science-backed longevity care, Ageless RX is the place to start. Ready to take the next step? Head to agelessrx.com and use code CAMPCHAOS to learn more. Yeah, I think 2 things popped in my head too is one, you should, when looking for a preschool, especially a preschool, you need to ask how much communication you'll have with the teacher. Yeah. We have, which I didn't think like you'd have parent-teacher conferences with preschoolers. It's like, what can we talk about? Actually, I feel like there's more to talk about in preschool than even like when they get to grade school because you want to learn how they are behaviorally.
Yeah.
And you want to learn,
especially when they're outside of the house, how they're behaving with other children and when you're not around.
Well, and I feel like, to your point about Zane and that you believe him, of course you always believe your kid, but I feel like sometimes like even Miller is in this phase right now where everything happened yesterday. everything. Mommy, I got sick yesterday. Mommy, we went to see Santa Claus yesterday. Everything is yesterday.
I want him to think that I always believe him, but these kids are lying out of their teeth.
But you don't know. And so sometimes that's why having communication with the teacher is so important, because I'll ask them like, oh, well, how was school today? Did anyone get in trouble? It's like, oh, so-and-so got in timeout. Or he told me, Miller came home one day and told me he got put in timeout. So
and then you asked the school and they're like, no.
I asked the teacher the next day, I'm like, oh, I'd love to know, what Miller did to get in timeout so that I can just talk to him about it. She's like, he was never in trouble.
Zane told me he met a girl in the front yard of our house when he was playing, and she gave him cookies, and she told him that her mommy went to heaven. I'm like, Zane, because we're talking about heaven with a lot. I'm like, Zane, you did that, like, and it didn't happen. Like, I was there, I was inside washing dishes, and I'm watching him out there. Like, no little girl came and gave him it, but it was like these things, these stories, these imaginations, these. So yeah, you have to believe, but you also have to be able to have verify. Communication with the teacher. And then I think one other thing, which I didn't realize would be such an important thing in preschool, and I know Zane's school offers this too, but asking what the school offers outside of the classroom. Like for Miller, there's an art class, like the Art and Soul. There's tennis. There's amazing athletes. There's all these other things that he can do outside, where it makes me feel like he's getting a more well-rounded school experience. Because when they go to grade school, they will have PE and after-school activities that are just a given. But like a lot of people don't want their kids in the classroom all day and don't want it so structured where it's like classroom, playground, back to the classroom. So Miller on Mondays goes to tennis in the morning. Then on Wednesdays he goes to amazing athletes, and Thursday he goes to art. Like Did they take him to all those? It's
all at the school. Of course, like my mom says, you can do anything for an additional fee.
Yeah. I know. Like they have cooking for Zane. I'm like, I'm sorry, what?
I know. That's what I remember, cooking, and like Miller's school has a garden. So Miller's obsessed with strawberries. He's like, oh my God, we went to the garden. Our garden grew strawberries, and I got to have strawberries. You want to make sure that they're offering
it's not just
more.
Babysitting.
It's not.
Yeah.
And so if you live in a town like we do, where preschool is, where you can find a school that will even offer these things, because I realize this is not the norm. I think those are important things to look at when looking at a preschool. But then after the preschool comes the real school. This is where it really matters, in my opinion, is like, well, actually, I think high school really matters. But to prep you for high school, important. Kindergarten through 8th grade or wherever, I think is really important. And I think when you think about grade school, like you probably have those priorities for yourself in check, or knowing your checklist that you want well before you have a kid. And, our checklist for me was Catholic, faith-based, private, just like what I knew. Yeah. That's what I did. I went to Catholic school from kindergarten through 12th grade. Like I always told Drew, I wanted the kids to go to Catholic school because I made all of my sacraments in school, whereas like if you are Catholic and you don't go to Catholic school, then I would have to take Miller to Catholic school after to go make his sacraments. I'm like, no, you're doing it all at school.
One-stop shop. Yeah. No, and
so those are important things
I
to me.
grew up going to public school, and I grew up privileged in Laguna Beach, where it was a very small community. And like my graduating, like my whole high school had 800 people at Laguna Beach High School. Like it was very tiny. So obviously knowing that public is like government funded, and there's just a whole different, you're going to have a lot more diversity. Like there is benefits, I will say, for public school. And like growing up, I think I was fine going through public, all grade school, middle school, and high school. However, I do think so much has changed in the world, and I am like not willing to have it be like up for grabs of like, am I going to get lucky or not with his school experience or their school experience? And finding somewhere that has a faith-based values, and like knowing that they're nurturing the whole child, teaching empathy. Like there's just so much more that I feel like we're looking for than like what our parents had to worry about.
Yeah. And I think one thing that you and I knew the school I wanted Miller to go to since before I had him. So that was easy for me.
Let me just start donating.
No, but I think one thing that you and I looked at with the schools for grade school for the kids is like, you also have to, which my parents always told me about, you have to look at the families that go there, because you have to look at the friends that your kids are going to have. And my dad always said like, where are they going to live? Like, is it a school that's a commuter school where everybody, you're going to be driving your kid all over town to go for play dates? Or is it a school that like everybody lives in, close in the same town? And I think looking at the families and are these people that you're going to enjoy spending time with? Because whether you like it or not, wherever you send your, wherever send your kids to school, like they're going to become friends. You got to hang out with these parents.
Yep, that's right.
Or you at least have to trust them enough to let your kid go over there for a couple hours.
Hell no.
We're not going to talk about play dates.
We are coming with. Yeah. And I do think like, at the end of the day, we're lucky to talk about private school. There is a huge tuition cost that comes with that. Yeah. That like, the more kids you have, congratulations, sweetheart, with your 3 children. But like it gets very expensive. And then a lot of these schools are even hard to get your kid in. Like we had to be interviewed. Zane got into his elementary school very early, which we were very blessed about. But like we had to be interviewed. He had to have an assessment. It was very, it was a wild process. And I'm like, oh my God, like, and you are like fighting to pay this high tuition cost.
Oh my God.
And then some of these other schools, like they go up every year, like it gets adjusted like 7 to 8% every year. Ugh. So it's such a privilege to be able to like even consider private school. I think at the end of the day, you do need to think about where it is, where you're driving to. Is it a commuter school? Like, are you going to be driving to 30 minutes for play dates because their friend lives past the school? And you need to think about faith. Is faith important? What values are important? How big of classrooms do you want? Like, what is it that you want for your kid? And looking at what you had as a child.
Yeah. And I think at the point of kindergarten through 8th grade, which maybe not in kindergarten, but this is when academics start to become important.
Yeah.
Like you want to make sure that your kid is going to a school where most of the kids you're hoping are taking academics pretty seriously and that they're like the teachers are teaching them more, or I hope more than like a base level of information. Like you want to challenge your kid if possible. And then you want to figure out maybe at a young age, like, okay, academics are going to be a bit of a struggle for us with this one.
Gosh.
So then let's figure out ways that we can help him or like ways that I need to spend a little bit more time with him, focus on math or whatever it is. But like,
it's wild that we're responsible for these things now.
My sister sent me and my siblings like this meme on Instagram. It was like, if you never cried while your dad was trying to teach you math at the kitchen table, like you didn't live. My dad was always like, reread the chapter. You don't get it. I'm like, well, that's a good point. Probably didn't really read the chapter, but like there's so much that's going to come with this. So I think finding the right environment
that
is
have
huge.
Kids that are older than ours are like, oh, you think this is hard now? Buckle up. Like buckle up, buckle up.
We talked about this. I get zero sympathy from my mom.
Yeah.
She could care less if I didn't sleep last night.
And like, I feel like every year and like every new challenge, you're like, can I go back to the baby stage?
Totally.
Like that was easier. Like,
look at me now with Dawson. I'm like,
this is easy. This is great.
Who complained about this?
Where is she actually?
I don't know. She's good wherever she is because she has her mommy's milk.
She's sleeping.
And she's sleeping.
The other ones, it's like the more freedom they have.
Oh
like,
my God.
You start every day. My mom used to tell me like after you have that baby, every day you start losing control. And like, it's true. Like they get more, I mean, at a young age, like they start crawling, they start walking, they start running, then they go to school, like they make friends, like you just lose control. And that's when our job gets so much harder.
Yeah.
So you just want to trust whoever you're putting in responsibility of watching your kid and like nurturing your kid, growing up with them in school, like what friends you're like, I don't want to say what friends you're picking, but like ideally you are picking, like here's the pool of friends that you can have from this school.
Right.
You can pick from these, from this group.
Right. Well, and I think it goes back to what you were saying of like, you do what you know. And for me, I know in a private Catholic school, having been there, that there are so many rules around behavior, around academics. And I think a lot of people might argue that there's too many rules, which my sister and I and my brothers, we always talk about like it did feel a little, just giving a little prison vibes.
Really?
For a second. But looking back, that's just being kids, you know, like, and I think Catholic schools and schools in general have changed with the times a little bit of like,
you can't do certain things
anymore. Yeah.
I don't want to know what happened, but yes, you can't do that.
But like, I just know that if Miller were to act like a total asshole, like he's going to get a detention and get in trouble. And those are things that like, those are important to Drew and I. Like we want to make sure that we are shaping him, you know, academically, but also like into
emotionally,
and
like what person that he's going to be.
Yes. So
you realize what a big decision it is. And like at the end of the day, what the most important thing is what you're doing at home.
Mm-hmm.
But It's also the friends they're making, the teachers that are leading them, the philosophy of what's going on at that school. Like there are just so many unknown variables of like when you let that kid walk out the door, always coming back to it at home of like, what are your values? But
well, and like depending on where you live and what your options are, like we have amazing public schools here.
Such amazing options
that I would argue are just as good, if not better, than some private schools that are in the area.
No,
so like, I think you just have to look at your situation.
Yeah. I mean, look, at the end of the day, some of the private schools in this area, like you're saying, like we have one up the street that's incredible for a public. And then there's a private school that has like a 5G cell phone tower on the playground. And like for so many moms, that's a huge deal that they would not do that. I won't say the school out loud, but it's like, that is like you're paying 35, 40,000 tuition and you have a 5G tower on the playground, like in the center as a tree. Very bizarre. Then you have another one up the street from us that like you're next to a cemetery and like the second and third grade, like you're next to the crematory. Yeah. So like that there's different, you have to really do the research. And I only say that, I'm not trying to be like negative and like, whoa, scare tactics, but like you have to really know because you don't want to commit, get your kid situated in a school and then be like, oh wow, this is not for us. We're pulling you, which don't get me wrong. You could always make changes and that happens, but it's so much harder on the kid. Like you want to just make sure that you're finding, like asking all the good questions, finding what's going to be the perfect fit and hoping for the best.
And then like literally praying on your knees that your kid gets into said school. Because I think that's the hardest part now we're realizing is I didn't realize how hard it was to get into these schools. And I think it's because a lot of people, which is a great thing, a lot of people want to go to these really great schools. We all think the same thing about the same schools. But also,
there's only so many spots.
Good for us, there's only so many spots, which is exactly what you want. And you never know. And you're fighting against siblings who are already there. And it's like a whole thing. And that's kind of the world that we're in right now, which is why we wanted to talk about it, because we are in the world of fighting for our lives to get into these schools.
Literally. And then it's like, you know, we start talking about certain schools and it's like, oh, you can't tell everyone because then it's like you're just bringing more attention. Yeah,
it's like, oh, this school is good for my kid, not yours.
Yeah, 100%. And also like you fight with legacy students getting in there. So like, you know, there's certain schools that, there's 22 spots for this classroom. And by the way, 18 of the kids are legacy with an older sibling that's going to this school. So there's 4 spots.
There's 4 spots.
Good luck. How much will you be donating? Like this is the world we're living in.
Yeah. And
so then you're like, where's the local public school that I could drop you off?
Hopefully for us, it'll just be the toughest for the boys. And then the girls will be siblings. So let's hope that, I don't know. Maybe that's not the case, but that's what I'm hoping for. Like I'm hoping all the stress and everything will just come with us getting Miller into school.
So much on the first child, to your point. That's it.
And what reward do I get? Nothing.
Yeah. Happy hunting for schools, parents. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Camp Chaos. We hope you enjoyed today's episode.
If you liked what you heard, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review our show. Connect with us on social media at Camp Chaos Podcast. Until next time, campers.